Well, folks, we got to get back to talking about Nintendo Switch 2 because we have some interesting information discovered by a fellow YouTuber about the platform. Because, look, one of the biggest question marks around Switch 2 is the power of the device. And it's been a big debate, despite some of the specs we think we might know, such as the 12 gigabytes of RAM and the 256 gigabytes of storage, and the fact it's a T239 chip with the A78C, Ampere-based GPU. Those are things we know. And there's even been, like, potentially leaked clock speeds out there that seem a little weird and may not be accurate. We also have had some comparisons of this based on, it's like a base PS4, maybe a PS4 Pro, maybe an Xbox Series S in power. When dot, who the hell knows how DLSS is going to be amazing. It's not going to be amazing. We're overblowing this. We're not overblowing this. We're actually underselling it. And then there's been other things going on out there, such as the fact that it's been widely just accepted that the T239 is a chip that is built off of the T234. The T234 is also an Ampere-based chip, but it was released in 2022 and designed for automotive and robotics use, and is a pretty big chip, way too big to be something that would be used in a mobile device such as the Nintendo Switch 2. It's been long thought it's going to be based off that, in part because Kopite7Kimi over on X, hinted years back that it would be based off of that. But here's the thing. We now have direct evidence of exactly when the T239 went into development, and it turns out that, the T234 literally might have nothing to do with this damn thing. And in fact, before certain technologies even existed in the market, this chip was being custom built for Nintendo, meaning that we literally don't know how powerful this is because this exact chip never existed before. It is not based on anything other than itself. In fact, even some of the technologies that are put into it were custom built from the very beginning for Nintendo Switch 2. This actually is really exciting because this means that it is completely bespoke hardware, not based on anything that currently exists. And because of that, the power potential could be great. So before we dive into this, I just want to remind you, we're on the road to 150,000 subscribers. If you're enjoying this content and you want more of it, all you got to do is subscribe to the channel. And look, we got to go ahead and give credit to DocTray81, the man, the myth, the legend, the person who apparently everyone thinks all he does is scour LinkedIn, which he does much more than that. But hey, he did discover this over on LinkedIn. So you know what? Let's go ahead and throw the screenshot up because look, he discovered a LinkedIn profile of an NVIDIA employee, and you're looking at it right now, who has worked with the company for 18 years and 6 months. So a long tenured employee who became a senior design manager for their CPU team. They have been working directly on that T239 chip, the one custom designed specifically for Switch 2 from the very beginning of the chip's inception. So, how do we know this? Because, while he has worked at several different jobs at NVIDIA, his most recent and current job began in October of 2017, where he not only became a CPU project and leadership manager, he became the lead of the CPU core complex for the T239. Remember, these descriptions of the LinkedIn profiles are provided by the employees themselves. They are not edited by the public. That means, guys, get this. That means that the T239 chip was in development within mere months of the Nintendo Switch releasing to the public. This also means the chip was in the works about 3 to 4 years before the chipset of the GPU itself it was based on even existed and was out there, the 3000 series Ampere line of GPUs, and started to get noticed publicly and eventually released around 2020, 2021, 2022, right? Beyond that, he worked on the CPU side of the chip, which custom designed the A78C, or that's what we presume it is, whatever that final CPU is. Now, what's notable about the A78C is that CPU didn't hit the public market until 2021. Remember, development for this began in 2017. That means the T239 chip was working with a custom design of the chip specifically for Nintendo at the very beginning of the Ampere and 878C's development. This is important to note because it can explain why it's been so hard to pinpoint before it releases exactly where the power of the system truly lies. It was previously thought that, yeah, it was based on that T234 released for automotive and robotics in 2022, because it's also based on Ampere. It was thought that T239 was just a scaled down version since they are both based on Ampere. However, we now have direct evidence to suggest that actually the T239 was in development at the exact same time as the T234 and may not be based upon that chip at all, since the chip didn't exist in a final form when the T239 was being built. Certainly, there could be some similarities given they are both Ampere based and made by NVIDIA, but they seemingly were developed either in tandem or even independently rather than one after the other. This means whatever the T239 is capable of in comparison to a T234, or really any other thing that's out there, is actually completely unknown. It is its own fully customized, from the very beginning ground up chipset that has no direct comparison to any chip on the market. I can't stress this enough. This is why it's been so hard to pinpoint how powerful this thing is, because there is no comparison. Not the 2050 stuff that what is it? Digital Foundry tried to do in one of their videos, the mobile 2050 stuff. Hello, it's based on the 3000 series, not the 2000 series. So you already weren't doing it correct. And the A78C, what's very interesting is from the very beginning of Ampere's development, and of course the A78C's development, it was already being customed for the Nintendo Switch 2. Both Ampere and directly, we now have direct evidence, the A78C from the very beginning of their development was already being fully customized for Nintendo Switch 2. I have to let that point really stand on its own. Guys, they're not adapting existing technology to Switch 2. They were developing this chip alongside the development of that technology, meaning that from the beginning, the A78C was made with the Nintendo Switch 2 in mind. The Ampere 3000 series GPUs were made with the Nintendo Switch 2 in mind. That matters. It matters a lot. And it could explain why everything we are hearing on the fringes from game developers is nothing but excitement, because we don't really fully understand what this thing can do. We hear things like, oh, it might only have a 1 gigahertz CPU. Well, if it does, there's a reason for that, and it must be something that's really helpful for the developers. Or maybe it's actually faster than that. Maybe the RAM and the bus speeds are faster than we think. Maybe the GPU is faster than we think. Look, we think we know so much, and yet it seems like we actually know so little. And obviously, Nintendo could clarify all this. Nintendo doesn't like to talk tech. However, NVIDIA does. So while Nintendo won't tout the tech inside Switch 2 on April 2nd, NVIDIA could have an event later this year where it does tout the tech and does dive into it, because NVIDIA did that for Switch. Not only that, obviously once it's released and publicly released, people put custom firmware on, we can get all the details, people tear apart the systems, they get everything we need, we get x-rays, we figure it all out. But the point is that whatever this thing is, clearly, third-party developers seem very happy with it, and I think you're going to see the results of some of that happiness on April 2nd. But setting that aside, guys, it wasn't taking existing technology and cutting it down for Switch 2. They were making the Switch 2 chip alongside the development of the technology that's inside it. That is massive. Also, it shouldn't be unexpected. Iwata told us a long time ago, I was trying to dig up this interview and I couldn't find the exact quote, but he mentioned a long time ago that as soon as Nintendo releases a product, they're already working on the next one, right? So is it really a shocker that Nintendo Switch 2 has been in development since 2017? It shouldn't be. I bet you for some of you it was a surprise. Oh, what about the Pro? Yeah, the Pro could have been in development too, if it existed at all. But the Pro was just going to be a souped up version of the current Switch, an overclocked version. We're talking about next generation. And they started building it with technology that didn't even exist yet. That's what's so exciting. So yeah, by the time it comes out this year, it's using 3- and 4-year-old tech. Fine. Fine. Call it 3 or 4-year-old tech. But this version of this tech has never existed before. So this will be the first generation version of this specific type of that tech. And that's exciting. So you know what? We're going to sit back and obviously let the games speak for themselves. Let NVIDIA speak for themselves, as they clearly will do. They love touting success stories. So when it's a success, they're going to be touting it at some future event. Maybe CES 2026. You'll see the CEO on stage whip a Switch 2 out of his pocket and be like, whoa, look at the speeds of this thing. Because, you know, Jensen likes to do some weird things. Last CES, how many times, if you had to count how many times he was asking people to admire his jacket, he's a very eccentric, I'm trying to be kind here, person. So anyways, guys, I want to thank you for tuning in. Let me know what you think about this down below. Do you understand like this is a big deal? Do you maybe you think it's not a big deal? I think it's a really big deal, but maybe you don't. Let me know your thoughts on this down in the comments below. Shout out to Doctor81, full link to his video. And yeah, we'll catch you guys in the next video.